give you this ground. In the southern belt of the kingdom, a crisis has struck at the core of rural life, foot-and-mouth disease. It has disrupted not just livestock health, but it has disrupting local economies, national exports, and the food chain itself. Yet, even as containment zones are enforced and vaccinations are being rolled out, the Ministry of Agriculture says it is looking beyond the crisis toward recovery, reform, as well as resilience. Now, from millions and millions of Emalangeni, that's the investment into commercial farming to targeted youth empowerment in agribusiness, as well as a renewed push for food sovereignty. There is a shift that is happening underway, one that goes beyond veterinary response to reposition Eswatini as a self-reliant, climate-smart agricultural economy. This morning we are joined by the Honourable Minister of Agriculture, Mandla Chauka, who is going to unpack the country's response to the outbreak, as well as, of course, the broader national agenda for the sector. Thank you so much for making time. I remember we had our very first conversation just a day after you assumed office, and we really appreciated that the clarion call of Ngwe was really taken to heed. Minister, I know it must, be frustrating to walk into office and have an agenda for development and have it, entirely halted by an outbreak. It's pretty much you're reminiscent of what happened during COVID-19. Such things happen, but I just want to get your general feel of how this has frustrated you, this foot and mouth.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. And yes, you are correct. I remember the first interview I had here, and I put out a lot of things that I believe need to be done in the ministry to move it forward. Just to your question, yes, it's a very big frustration for the ministry because it detracts from some of the efforts that we are supposed to be focusing on or things that we're supposed to be doing. And now we are sort of fighting fires. And those who are in the know in terms of strategic leadership and management is that you are more effective when you are being strategic in your management and in your or movement of the organization. When you have to fight fires, then it takes a lot of effort, it drains you, and it detracts you from the ultimate goal. But such things happen, such is life. You can never say you are not going to have crisis in your life. So we had COVID, now we've got FMD. It's not the first time that we've got FMD in the country. We've had it before, we've dealt with it, but we are dealing with it now. But I'm happy with the response that we are amounting, and also in terms of the fact that we have changed the approaches. But I think we'll get to that discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, speaking of being proactive, we saw the request that you made to Cabinet, requesting for, an amount that wasn't scary at all, if you really think about what the ripple effects of FMD, 39 million, I believe. Yes. And, how appreciative are you with how Cabinet responded to these calls, just understanding the urgency that it requires?
Firstly, I think you are correct. When we had this problem, I think I must remind the nation that it was on the 12th of May that we realized that we might have had an infection in the country. We started doing our tests and we confirmed that, yes, it was foot and mouth, and we worked out the strain that was in the kingdom. Then, yes, we approached the Cabinet with a budget of about 39 million to mount a response that's going to make sure that we are able to put out the fires firstly and be able to get back to trade within reasonable time. I must therefore appreciate Cabinet for a quick response because they granted us this amount. And then secondly, we needed, as part of the response program, needed to inform certain bodies in the country, and they were all responsive, including the ROAs, the relevant ROA at Shiselweni. And we also then must extend our gratitude to the NDMA under the Deputy Prime Minister's office, because they were very responsive, and we've been fighting this battle with them. and they're at the forefront of what we do along with us as a ministry.
Yeah.
And that has helped us to make progress in terms of this fight.
Speaking of the response, let's speak about the response itself now. And it's, when we look at the definition of response, means the action itself.
Yes.
The money has been approved. You have made all the necessary measures across the regions. Talk to me about the current status of FMD outbreak in the country right now, as well as the vaccination rollout. Where are we?
Okay, as I've already indicated, we saw this disease on the 12th of May. I think we went public on the 19th or 20th of the same month.
Right.
We were already frantic trying to find vaccinations because we, as part of the planning process, we decided how we're going to respond.
Sure.
There is a number of possible actions that we can take in terms of dealing with this disease. Some of the things that we can do include putting down the animals. But we took a decision that, look, let's approach, because the technology has advanced. We've come to a point whereby the world over no longer rush to putting down animals. Instead, you look at options like vaccination. So find vaccines from Botswana. I think the doses arrived here on the 19th of June. It was a result of intense negotiations, including with South Africa, because the consignments that were already in place were targeted to go to South Africa, but we had to negotiate with South Africa that we get that consignment, they will get the next batch and whatever. So we were able to do that. On the 19th, we got the vaccines. On the 22nd, we started vaccinating. So the idea or the plan was to vaccinate about 50,000 animals. That's the estimate we had, and give them 2 doses. Therefore, we acquired 100,000 doses to deal with this situation. So what has happened up to date is that firstly we had the whole cordon coverage,
right,
making sure that the checkpoints and making sure that animals and animal products don't pass through those areas. And then we also made sure that we asked, we must also thank the Ministry of Public Service and CSC for making sure that they allow the quotas cordon guards.
Right.
We got 60 cordon guards to go and monitor and patrol the areas, both on the checkpoints and on the borders between us and South Africa. What has then happened as well is that through the vaccination program has got to a point whereby we've cleared the first doses. So we've vaccinated 45,761 animals.
Wow.
That is the population of animals that we found in that region. After the vaccination, we brand them so that we make sure we don't vaccinate the same animal twice. And then we check during the tip days that all the animals are covered. Yeah. So what has happened, what has started now this week is the second doses, because there must be a 30-day interval between the first dose and the second dose. So now we are giving them the second dose, and we are happy that although we've had a number of incidences of people trying to smuggle animals, we have not had a situation whereby we have a confirmed case outside the red zone. So we believe and are comfortable that we have contained the disease within that red zone. And because we are doing that, we believe we are in a position to be able to get back to trade in a shorter space of time than probably we would have had if we were having incursions all over the place and all over the country.
Speaking of the time to get back to trade, and you're being diplomatic, I like that you're saying in a very short time. Can we give a give or take estimate of when we can sort of regain Eswatini's FMD free without vaccination status, and how soon we could realistically expect that?
I think diplomatic, yes. But there are 2 stages that are very critical and are very important. The first one is to get back to international trade.
Okay.
You can trade, not necessarily being free from FMD without vaccination. That is a longer term sort of status that you attain over time. But what, in terms of time frames, we set ourselves 6 months from the date of discovering this disease, that we wanted to do everything possible to make sure that we're able to get back to international trade in 6 months from that point. That's because it is the lives of Eswatini that is at stake. There's a number of people who are working in abattoirs and in some places where the income, or the business, is actually driven by export trade. So we need, therefore, to be able to get back quickly. So 6 months from that time gives us now 4 months. So our target is that by December, we want to be able to get back to international trade. That is why on a weekly basis, we submit reports to the international world, in the international bodies that control this disease, like the World Organization on Animal Health, which gives them the status of how we are progressing in terms of this fight. We've also gazetted the disease, and we think we are in line to be able to get back to international trade by December. But by maybe mid next year, we can reclaim our status of being free without vaccinations, because we've had that status for quite a long time. It was in 2021 that we had, in 2001 that we had a skirmish of a similar one. So for more than 10 years, we've been free without vaccinations.
Yeah.
We want to get back to that.
I want to credit the tracking systems that you have. Clearly, when you speak, you can see that you have meticulously drawn out tracking systems to make sure that you are able to respond and are able to meet all these aspirations in time. I'm thinking about it, December, 4 months from now. There's probably going to be record-breaking in terms of responding at a very short space of time. But that also speaks to the coordinated, and aligned linkages that you have with all the stakeholders that you're mentioning, which you're saying we're all doing a great job and you are thanking them. But I think all of it goes to waste if these people that you have spoken to lightly and briefly, who try to smuggle even with this system. I want you to speak to those people.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I really would like to plead and beseech the nation that, you see, this thing is like being in a pool. Right. So if we are in a pool and we are underwater, you feel like you want to breathe. So we understand that Eswatini have got ceremonies to do. Some of them want to get married, and some of them want to do that, which involves the movement of animals. But we are just let's just understand that we are under water now. If we try to breathe under this water, we might die. So it's best we peg under the water, we get to a safe place where we can take a deep breath. So that's all we're asking. So please, we've had a number of incidences where we've caught people with goats, with cattle, some of them moving them away from this zone and into places where they could bring the disease. We do have a law, and the law says we are at liberty actually to put these animals down. But because we are sensitive, we don't want to do that. We try and make sure that we respond in a way that's going to be accommodative to these people. But it is illegal to do it. Let's not move the animals. Let's work hand in hand, collaborate to make sure that we're able to save the country. We cannot afford to shoot ourselves in the foot by smuggling animals or any products that are prohibited to move between through certain points. Yeah.
Preparing for this interview, I said, when we ground the interview, I want us to look at 3 C's. That is going to be communication, containment, and coordination. And I think we've covered a good part of the coordination and the containment. But the communication aspect, and this one pains me as a journalist because I know such mechanisms can be halted by misinformation or disinformation, so to speak. How do you plan to respond to such misinformations and disinformations in a time of an outbreak? Because that could be dangerous.
Yeah, we've got a communication structure. That's part of the response program. That communication structure is handled between the ministry and DMA. Right. We actually have numbers that can be called. We've publicized that. We've also gone to the radio, EPIS, and we've got some sort of a play there that is always airing. We also issue communications through our ministries and telling the nation what is happening. But of course, there will always be elements that will start introducing misinformation or distorting the information. We also have a very good communication between ourselves and cabinet to make sure that we update everybody. But it happens. But I think the most important thing is that anybody who wants to verify information and to be sure that is talking to the right people must contact the ministry or contact NDMA. The information will be solid and correct.
And I know that a big part of this development is, obviously the rural economy has been really, really affected. And I acknowledge that you highlighted, the first thing that you mentioned is that when you started making out communication efforts, you did engage traditional leaders.
Yes.
Very important, because beyond these veterinary controls, I suppose traditional authorities have to be brought in, private vets as well as community leaders being mobilized in this response, but that has to be sustained throughout all the efforts. I want to believe you're doing that.
Certainly, we're doing that, and I think one of the most important things that when we've got an incident, there's a lot of things that we need to learn and be able to put in place contingency measures so that in the future you don't have repeats or you close the gaps that might be visible.
Right.
One of the things we've realized, okay, firstly, maybe let me go back to saying that we are involving everybody that is a stakeholder in this. We started off with the RA, and through the RA we've been able to get chiefs together and get to communities, and we were talking to them and also soliciting ideas from them, because it can never be correct that ingenuity can be restricted to a few individuals. So everybody must contribute and give us ideas in terms of how we can deal with such incidences in the future.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things that I would like to thank is our traditional authorities in terms of Buba Bebo Chief.
Right.
One of the problems we've realized is that our quarantines are not enough in the country. We only have one functional quarantine at Mapivel. Therefore, if you catch animals being smuggled, for instance, because we say we don't want to put them down, you must take them to the quarantine.
Of course.
But taking an animal from Mhlambanyatsi to Mapivel is cumbersome, and it's not good even for the farmer. So we've asked them, and they're looking for a piece of land. We want to build a quarantine on the northern side of the country, Mhlambanyatsi and the rest. We are also going to build a quarantine at Saliche to make sure that we're covering the south. So what I'm trying to say, these are long-term interventions now that are going to make sure that we are able to deal with these things in future, or we're able to respond better. We also have increased the effort to resuscitate our cordon fences. Just yesterday I was talking to the High Commissioner of South Africa, because we used to have an arrangement where we are covering certain portions of the cordon fences, and the South African side was doing the same, covering certain portions. So we need to get back to that, because it seems to have disintegrated slightly over time, and especially with the changes of governments in South Africa. The beauty of Eswatini is that we've got consistency and stability because of the center of power. So we are saying we need to put all these things in place so that in future we respond better. But the other thing one would like to appreciate is the response from some retired veterinary officers. We asked them to come back because this was a national problem.
Right.
They responded positively. They've come on board because we needed to have all hands on deck.
Right.
And I think it's working well for us.
Officially declared a national emergency, by the way, I think.
Yes, it was an emergency, not a disaster, but an emergency.
It's an emergency, 100%. And perhaps before I move into this next part of our conversation, let me acknowledge, because when I saw you yesterday at the live stream of the Eswatini Taiwan business presentation, I said to myself, I wonder if the minister will be able to make it to the breakfast show. I might receive a call in the morning and he telling me that I can no longer come. We are tired. But as Minister Mangoba highlighted, the clarion call was pretty clear.
Yeah.
It is where.
It is
and indeed, we appreciate, because that means you are forthright with the communication and certainly understanding how grave of a situation this is. The bigger picture, agriculture in transition, is our next conversation, and we understand in this year's national budget over 170 million, if I'm correct, was earmarked for the agricultural sector, including inputs, of course, irrigation schemes, a new aquaculture center in Malkins. An update on these investments being deployed right now.
Okay, I think if we go back to the initial interview we had when I assumed office,
right.
You'll remember that I mentioned a number of things that needed to be put in place for agriculture to transform,
right,
to be an effective sector. One of them was food sovereignty, and the most important one was what I called targeted investment.
Right.
We needed to do targeted investments into agriculture and also commercialization of agriculture and a lot of other things. So we've been trying to mobilize funds to do some of the programs, because we then went out and put out a strategy for the ministry, and then we set out programs and objectives that need to be implemented to achieve those goals. Funding or getting money into the sector is important to stimulate it. So how are these funds that we've attained? Because some of these funds come from the central budget, but some of them come from international organizations. The aquaculture center, we are happy that it's now operational. It was through the assistance of the Taiwanese government, and what it's doing, it's producing fingerlings for the farmers, so that they can go and do their fish production and be able to make their livelihoods better.
Yeah.
So we want to scale up that sector, because it is one of the cheapest source of protein, and we do have challenges of stunting in the country for our children because they're not getting enough protein. So, but we believe that through fish farming or aquaculture, we should be able to upscale our production of protein for this. So the aquaculture center is central in making sure that there is enough fingerlings for the farmers to be able to produce.
Right.
But some of the programs that we are running, from here now, for instance, I'm going to a function where we'll be recognizing the disbursement of about 32 million of 32 emalangeni to farmers. Through the Eswatini Agricultural Development Fund. So that is one of the interventions. We launched this fund on the 28th of November last year, and so some of the monies that we're talking about are in there, and that dispersed as loans to farmers to make sure that people are able to go and farm and be able to not only farm, but also be involved in the agro-value chain, whether it's transportation, logistics, cold chain management, and everything that deals with, or even technology for the youth. We always encourage the youth because they want to use technology to do their farming, drones and all the things of that nature.
Yeah.
We have funding for them through the Eswatini Agricultural Fund. The next session I'll have this morning is where we will be receiving about 5 vehicles from what we call the Livestock Improvement Project.
Right.
So this project is going to assist the livestock value chain. We've got money from the European Union, and we started off by dispersing through buying baling machines. We've got 4 sets that we bought, and we gave to farmers out there, especially the youth, to go and do baling.
Right.
The set consists of a tractor, a baling machine, a rake, and a sledge. So it's a full kitty which then you can produce, bale and sell. So these are the things that we are doing to transform agriculture so that people can participate in the value chain, especially the youth. We also have projects which we do with the Women Farmer Foundation to train the young farmers and to make sure that they participate effectively in the agri sector. One thing I'd like to mention on, sorry, just one important point on the funds. Within that money, you did say it's subsidies for the farmers.
Yes.
By the way, we've increased the subsidy this year by an additional 7.5 million. Hambobuye has also increased by some 14 million.
Right.
But the most important thing that, because farming is in three segments, there is subsistence or small-scale farming, medium farming, and large-scale farming or commercial farming. We are now starting for the first time in this country to do commercial farming, and we've got 40 million within that 170. We've got 40 million that we'll be using to farm in some government farms, using some of our parastatals like EWAD and NMC. We call it farming with communities because we want the communities to participate in those projects. And so that's how we're deploying some of this money. And there's this other one, which we call SAP, which went through Parliament. And it was we had a loan bill that was passed, including a grant. And that one is targeting the youth, women, and people living with disabilities. So we're covering the whole spectrum.
I love it. It's very comprehensive. It's just unfortunate we had to deal with FMD while all these developments are happening. Well, there you have it.
All the time.
Minister for Agriculture, Mandla Chawuka, speaking on some really interesting developments, perhaps key takeaways here, 6 months that we have. In fact, we have 4 months now to get back to international trade as we try to fight this foot and mouth disease, but also the improvements in terms of targeted investments and everything that is happening. That's what in the Agricultural Development Fund, what will be happening after this show, 32 million in Malanga, and exciting news, but also the livestock value chain, which he has just spoken to. Really, really exciting. But please, stop smuggling. Let's adhere to everything that has been put in place with regards to fighting FMD. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Wisile Breakfast Show. Bye-bye.